Word just broke out a trade. The Atlanta Hawks have traded Cam Reddish, Solomon Hill, and a 2025 second round pick for Kevin Knox and a 2022 protected Charlotte first round pick. This is one of the first bigger trades of the season so far and should be a sign on what directions both these franchises are going to make moving forward. This is a pretty interesting deal, which I have a decent amount of thoughts on, so let's get into it.
They be like, what? Can you teach me how to dirty? You know why? Cause all the bitches love it. All I need is a beat that's super bumpin'. And for you to back it up and dump it.
Leave a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I drop regular NBA content, and with the NBA season going on, this should interest you. So do subscribe to the channel. Moving on to this video. So first, let's talk about this from the Knicks side of things. Cam Reddish is one of the more interesting young players in the league right now. He's having a career year, which is probably the reason for his frustration. Cam has been inconsistent ever since he's made it to the NBA. He's had clear negative first 2 seasons in the league. But for young players, the most important thing is to show flashes of what you could be. And though Cam might not have done it to nearly the extent you would have hoped for, thanks to multiple reasons including injuries, the flashes were definitely there. And this year, those flashes have been amplified. And you can see him finding a slight rhythm and have 30-point outbursts or big scoring quarters more often than you did in years prior. Though I always felt people fell in love with the idea of what Cam Reddish could be and overvalued his current capabilities, the potential and talent is clearly there, and we're seeing a lot of it this year when he's coming off the bench for the Hawks. I always felt the Paul George ceiling was a bit unattainable. But a lot of the reason he's been inconsistent in his career is his lack of opportunity. The Hawks run a heliocentric offense surrounding Trae Young and that pick and roll, which you really can't blame them for because it obviously works. They're one of the best offensive teams in all of basketball, and a lot of it is thanks to Trae Young being the ridiculously offensively talented player that he is. This is part of the reason why the development of many young guys in the Hawks team is going slower than you'd hope for, because they don't nearly get the reps they might deserve as young promising prospects. Reddish over the season is averaging 19 points per 75 possessions on bad shooting from the field but 38% from 3. His 3-point shot has become a really consistent threat, and he is now developed into a good 3-and-D player, an ability which should keep him in the league at the minimum. But what intrigues me the most are his numbers without Trae Young. Cam Reddish has played without Trae Young for 473 minutes this year. In this stretch, he's averaging 21.5 points and 2.3 assists every 75 possessions while being slightly below league average efficiency-wise. But he's at his best with the ball in his hands as of right now, and this is why I love this trade for the Knicks. For the Knicks, this is a low-risk, high-reward trade. They traded away Kevin Knox, a player who they don't even give minutes to, and a protected pick from Charlotte, which isn't going to be any better than the 19th pick, and for all we know, won't even pan out thanks to the protections on it. So basically, they gave up nothing for a promising young player who has been underutilized with a bad development scheme his entire career. So as long as the Knicks give him his reps, he should be able to shine in New York, to a certain extent at least. If not this year, definitely after getting a reasonable contract in the offseason, he should be more consistent in the years to come. It's also cool that we have RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish back together after due. In my opinion, Cam should be starting at the small forward position over Burks or start over Evan Fournier, because the fit with Fournier and Barrett just isn't there. In theory, this Cam to the Knicks trade should be great. I have one slight issue with this, and that is Tom Thibodeau. Tibbs is known for notoriously underutilizing younger players and giving more experienced guys minutes even though they aren't necessarily better or more important players for the team. Emmanuel Quickly and Obi Toppin are some guys who have fallen victim to this to a certain extent in recent history. This is a legitimate concern, but as long as they utilize Cam Reddish right, Reddish is a low-risk, high-reward player for the Knicks, and this should be a fun stint in New York for the Duke wing duo back together. And from the Hawks side of things, this is more of a long-term move. It looks like they're stacking up assets for a future big trade. So to decide whether or not this trade is a success, we'll only know based on the moves they make in the future. I still feel like even if this was just stacking up assets kind of trade, they could have gotten a much better offer from a team like Indiana, who could have taken a swing on Reddish considering they're going into a rebuild themselves. As I said in the start of the video, Reddish is an interesting and a slightly confusing prospect to gauge, but I find it hard to believe this is the most they could have gotten for Cam Reddish. An out of the lottery pick and a guy who's not going to get any minutes for them in return for him, kind of hard to believe. But anyways, as I said, we can only decide if this trade was a success or not for the Hawks based on the next move they make using these assets they've received. And with that, we've come to the end of the video. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already.